Write.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the entire United States of America. And of course, good morning to the entire world receiving our signals through the magic of the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, now controlled by the billionaires, even though it was invented by us, our tax dollars, something that we must remember and do something about. Before we get started with this great show, we are going to go into the studio with our resident geniuses. Buenos dias, mis hermanos. ¿Cómo están? Good morning, my brothers. How's everybody doing?
Only Stanley is here today.
Oh, we only have one genius in the office today. How you doing, brother?
Or one of the Laurel and Hardy.
All right. How you doing, hermano?
I'm good. I got a couple of things here. Little questions of. Well, I'll just read it.
Yeah, let us have it. Let us have it.
All right. When a corporate entity denies life-saving care to a patient because the treatment is too expensive, is that murder? If a board of directors makes that decision, is that collusion or conspiracy to commit murder? If a corporation has the same rights as a person and money is free is its speech, then criminal law should apply all the way to the CEO and the board of directors, I would think.
I would think so. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that brings up an important thing called personhood, corporate personhood. And since you brought that up, I'm going to talk about it. But I think you said you had three things. You have something else, or that's what you're talking about? Those are the three
No,
things you
that was
mentioned.
it.
Okay, well,
It
let
was
me
just
tell you.
posing those questions.
Well, let me just say that those are prescient, and let me explain what I mean by that. And this is important. In America, not only in America, in all over the world now, because of the way business world, whether if it's in Panama, we call it the SA Sociedad Anónima. In America, we have corporations, right? What these are entities that take on what we call personhood, meaning if a corporation does something, if it pollutes the land or anything, if Exxon pollutes the land, the independent executive or decision makers aren't the ones held accountable. The ones held accountable are the corporations, right? And the corporations has a legal status. It's a fictional entity, but it has rights as a human being in some instances. With Citizens United and others, it has more rights than a citizen because, again, it has infinite use of money. I mean, there are a few rules, but it has infinite use of its money because we also have another tenet with Citizens United that where we define money as speech. So we want to get rid of money as speech, and we want to get rid of corporate personhood so that what you just spoke about there isn't true. In other words, if the death of people are affected by the actions of those who run a corporation, just like if I hit somebody with a car, I am responsible for that. That it may not be murder, but it sure as hell would be involuntary manslaughter. When corporations harm, those who cause the harm within the corporations should suffer the same consequences. People are going to say, well, that will reduce the amount of stuff that corporations do. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. It'll make people a lot more responsible for humanity than responsible simply for capital. In capitalism, the only thing that matters is capital. However, if we modify our economic system to a free enterprise system governed by rules and the laws that govern humanity, the humanity, thou shalt not kill, etc., then we'll have a different being. So, as usual, my dear brother Jack, prescient statement gave me a chance to say something that is very, very important. Again, folks, Jack is absolutely right and on cue. Corporations are not people, and money should not be speech, because what it does is it give that entity corporation infinite speech while you as an individual citizen get very little, because you don't command the monies that a corporation commands. So it's time for us to take back our power. It's time for us to take back and become who we are. Now, the title of the show today is Here Are Great Explanations of the Plight of Workers. And if we can get to it as well, a January 6th police officer speaks. But what I want to talk about, and by the way, folks, the phone number 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And you can call it anytime. But I want to start here. I think it's important for Americans to get buyer's remorse on this last election quickly. And I'm not saying that facetiously, I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm saying that to save yourself. I hope you start to get buyer's remorse quickly, because that is the only way we're going to stop a disaster. But before I go into the disaster, I want folks to recall a few facts. Uh, and I can give reasons why these facts are, but let's just talk about the facts first. The economic system in America always, bar none, always does better under a Democratic president than under a Republican president. Republicans are great marketers, but that's all they do. Market. The Republican politicians are great marketers, but that is all they do. Market. Okay? It is important for you to know that when added up for the last 100 years plus, when you break down every single Democratic or Republican administration, the Democratic administration has outperformed the Republican administration, not by a little bit, by a bunch. One had an average growth of 2 point something percent. The other one had an average growth of 3 point something percent. That represents over a 30% differential. That's huge. So, with all the rhetoric that you hear, Democratic presidencies gives you better economic activity than Republican presidencies. That's not up for debate. That's not a question. Any Republican person, or I should say, anybody who wants to defend Republican policies can give me a call. 713-526-5738. Those are simply the absolute numbers. In terms of where people are now and what people can recall, we don't have to go back to FDR, etc., etc., etc. We can start with Carter. Carter had a much better job growth than every Republican president except, and I'm not even sure if it's except, but I have it in my book, but I can't remember it right now, except for Reagan. And the president that has the largest job growth, bar none, yes, it's Biden in one term, but it's also Clinton in as far as absolute employment numbers. Again, Biden for absolute employment numbers, I think Clinton for percentages. All the other Republican presidents, when it comes to employment, has way behind Democratic presidents. Those are facts. You can look them up. I've also, I have a book called As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. I'm looking for those numbers right now because a lot of people don't believe these things because they listen to the crap they hear on TV and think because they're hearing it from a ABC, CBS that somehow it makes sense. Let's go through some numbers. George Bush, in 2 terms, 3 million people hired. Bill Clinton, 23 million people. George H. Walker Bush, the older Bush, 2.5 million. Ronald Reagan, 16 million. Now again, remember, Bill Clinton had over 6 million people more than Ronald Reagan. Yet everybody always talk about the Ronald Reagan economy, which wasn't really a success as one would believe. And I've written about that in my book as well. As I See It, Class Warfare, the class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. Here's the other kicker. Jimmy Carter, one term, 10.5 million people hired. Gerald Ford, 1.8 million. Richard Nixon, 9.4 million. Lyndon Johnson, 11.9 million. John Kennedy, 3.6 million. Dwight Eisenhower, 3.5. Truman, 8.4. So in every number that matters, Democratic presidents outperform Republican presidents. That's not up for debate. Those numbers are there for all to see. Now you have elected Donald Trump. With all the bells and whistles, with Donald Trump saying the economy, the catastrophic nature of the Biden economy, all lies, but the catastrophic nature, and many of you chose to believe it. The first time he got elected, he didn't get the popular vote. So we could forgive folks. We could say, well, it's the aberration within the Constitution that gave this guy the election in 2016. So we can kind of accept that because in reality he didn't win in 2016. And when he talked about the American carnage and all of that, it was crap. Obama left the next president a damn good economy after having to recover the crap from Bush 2. Reagan and Bush 1 destroyed our economic system by creating a system of debt. They wanted big tax cuts. They wanted big military spending, and they knew they couldn't touch Social Security. So what did they do? Reagan started the times of exploding the budget. They're always talking about let's go ahead and balance the budget and economic security, and they talk the talk. But they are the ones that consistently blow the budget up. And it started, again, not Carter. Reagan blew the budget up. And of course, after Reagan came, Bush got reelected. Bush called Reaganomics, he called Reaganomics voodoo economics. Bush 1 called Reaganomics, which was supply side economics, also known as trickle down economics. He called it voodoo economics. And remember, Bush 1 also said no new taxes, but he realized the crap that Reagan left him, and he had to go back on that promise and raise taxes. He started raising taxes on the wealthy because Reagan left the deficit in shambles, the debt in shambles. They don't talk about that on TV. They don't talk about it because, as Richard Wolff, the economist, would say, we were living on borrowed money, and if I give you borrowed money, you have the semblance of prosperity, not real prosperity, the semblance of prosperity. And that is what Reagan left, the semblance of prosperity with the debt that he created as he cut taxes, as he raised the defense budget, the semblance of prosperity. Bush 1 came in, and Bush 1 said, "Oh my God, look at what this guy left me. I always knew it was voodoo economics, so I got to go back on my no taxes." So Bush went ahead and raised taxes. So the recovery that Clinton had actually started with Bush 1. Clinton comes in, and after Bush and Reagan destroyed the debt and the deficit, Clinton comes in and he raised taxes like he should. And the first and only president since Carter to get a balanced budget was who? A Democrat named Clinton. You don't hear a lot about that, do you? You don't hear that balanced budgets occurred under Democrats. And look, I caucus personally, take my host hat off. I caucus with Democrats, but I am a full-fledged left-wing progressive because that's the only thing that really solves the human problem. That's the only folks who believe in humanity. Humanity first, and policies that support humanity, not neoliberalism, etc., etc., etc. Now, but Clinton comes in. Clinton comes in and he saves the day. He balances the budget. And what happens after Clinton? Gore, because of Clinton's peccadillos, refused to hug what they've done together and allowed himself to be triangulated by Bush 2. And Bush 2 comes in, and after Clinton cleans up the budget and makes us fiscally responsible, Bush comes in and did exactly what Reagan did. Destroyed the budget. Tax cuts, spending on the military, all these things that crashed the thing, he did again. And the economic system showed it with the employment that he had. And again, like I said, the policies of Republican politicians always do worse than the Democrats. Why? Because of their beliefs. It's an ideological thing. They believe in tax cuts for wealthy folks, which don't circulate money in an economy. Because if you have a lot of money, getting more doesn't cause you to spend more, and an economy depends on economic activity. It's simple. It's not rocket science. But that's what happens. Now Bush destroys the economy again. And not only did he destroy the economy, but Clinton made a mistake when he signed the tax bill. In other words, to get his tax increases through a Republican Congress, to get all these things, well, actually, he got the tax increase through a Democratic Congress. Not one Republican voted for it. But subsequent to that, there's this rule called Glass-Steagall. Glass-Steagall is the rule or laws that protect investment banking from general banking. Okay, clean banking. And because they broke that wall down, all kinds of shenanigans were practiced during the Bush administration with turning home mortgages into securities that were then turned into derivatives. And these derivatives were packaged in such a way that they seemed that they were more secure than they were. And then they gave bad loans to a whole lot of people that couldn't afford homes that they got. I mean, the whole shebang was a fraud. And I have a 5-part series about billionaires with Patrick Lovell that I'm going to be playing on my 3 o'clock shows in the next few weeks. A 5-part series that explains this mortgage destruction that occurred under the Bush administration. But Bush comes in, destroyed the economy, And when I say destroy the economy, I'm not saying that lightly. The entire world's economy were locked up, and they were locked up and specifically caused by a financial instrument from capitalism called the derivative investment, investment swaps, etc. These are financial instruments and insurance policies on financial securities, combinations of all these things that froze the economy because in software we call it the deadly embrace. Let me just give you the simple form of it. I buy a mortgage insurance, or rather, they go ahead and they put several mortgages into a security. Let's call it a stock just for the sake of argument. And me as an investor, I am not too sure about that security, so I buy insurance on that security. And that insurance company, you know, would buy insurance on the insurance they sell with another company on these derivatives derived from mortgage securities. And we go back and in circle. But eventually, what happens is security A is insured by B, B is insured by C, C is insured by D, and D is insured by A. That's the deadly embrace because if A fails, A goes to B, B goes to C, C goes to D, and D said, oh, I failed. Let me go to A. But wait a minute, A failed. So A is going to go back to B. That is a situation. That is a shenanigans that capitalism plays. That's a shenanigans that these billionaires play. These people that you call geniuses, these people that you think are necessary for our economy to succeed, these failures, these parasites, did that to the economy to the order of $71 trillion. I have a special coming up on that with Patrick Lovell, a 5-part series that's going to talk about that. $71 trillion. And you know what? The government just inflated money around the world to take the businessmen that created these shenanigans to make them whole. Our government, the United States government, along with the central banks around the world, created money to bail these corporations and billionaires out. And then they want to blame us for the problem. We took out loans we couldn't afford. No, you push loans on people because you wanted a high supply of these securities so that you could manufacture money and get rich. The average American citizen doesn't get this on TV. They don't understand these concepts. But that is what they did. So that is what occurred under Bush. And here comes Obama. And instead of Obama locking up all these thugs, these thieves, these billionaires for what they've done to the world's economy, they bailed them out. But in the process, they revived the economy. And by Obama's 8th year and last year, the economy was on, well, from the time he got into office, the economy was on an upswing, and he left Donald Trump an economy on the upswing. Donald Trump did nothing, absolutely nothing for the economy other than two things. Increased tariffs on China, which started the rise of inflation. And number two, a tax cut. A humongous tax cut unpaid for, which ballooned the deficit. Even the woman who ran against him went ahead and said, look, you caused more to the deficit than anybody else. Donald Trump, that is. And Donald Trump also mismanaged, of course, the pandemic. And in mismanaging the pandemic, got 1 million Americans killed, died because of the mismanagement of a pandemic. Died because of the mismanagement of a pandemic. So he summarily lost the election, landslide in electoral college, landslide in votes. 7 million votes is what Biden got relative to Trump. And of course, Trump caused an insurrection. He was the leader of a terrorist attack on America to cause a coup. Anniversary was yesterday. Today, I probably won't get to cover it, but there's a cop that came out and wrote an op-ed yesterday in the New York Times that says if Trump is going to pardon these people, my God, whatever happened to law and order? You being a law and order president, and you're going to pardon these guys who beat up cops, right? But anyhow, so when he lost, he effected a terrorist attack on the United States via an insurrection, a coup, an attempted coup that failed. But for that, an inept Justice Department, instead of immediately arresting him as they came into power as being the thug and the terrorist that he was, and making sure that he got convicted for attempting to overthrow the United States of America, he got the pass of, men get certain kind of passes in this country. He got the pass. Even though he did that. Now Biden comes into power with a pandemic that was exacerbated by not only Trump doing bad things, but Trump allowing conspiracy theories and all these things to occur that killed people. But Biden just put his head down and got to work. Biden put his head down and got to work. I want to play you something here real quick about the Biden's economy and what Trump is up against now as he comes into power. Remember, it's important that you guys who voted for Trump start with your buyer's remorse to ensure that he doesn't screw up or screw your life up.
These are facts. I hope facts don't offend you all that are watching that want to keep believing how horrible things have been under Biden and Harris. But this is Peter Baker. We're going to have him on in an hour. For the first time, Willie, since George W. Bush's inauguration, no American troops were at war overseas on Inauguration Day. Murders way down. Illegal immigration fallen below where it was when Donald Trump left office. Stock markets are roaring and finished at their best 2 years in a quarter century and are at record highs. Jobs are up. Wages are rising. The economy is growing as quickly as it did during Trump's presidency. Unemployment is as low as it was before the pandemic. Domestic energy production higher than it has ever been. And Willie, did you know our manufacturing sector has more jobs right now than any time than it has in 25 years? So the manufacturing sector up, drug overdose deaths down. And of course, as an economist from Moody's says, who has to look at economies across the world and rate them, America's economy, and this is not even debatable, America's economy is the envy of the world. Yeah. And even inflation down. Were there some economic headwinds because of inflation over the last 3 years or so? Yeah. But I just say all this to say that history is going to have a clear record on the Biden presidency. And when we move beyond the sound and the fury signifying nothing on social media about how horrible Joe Biden's presidency has been, or on cable news networks saying how horrible Joe Biden's presidency has been, data, the facts, I think they may matter to historians. The facts are going to show that Donald Trump is inheriting a pretty strong economy and a country that is going in the right direction socially, whether you're talking about, whether you're talking about jobs, whether you're talking about illegal immigration, whether you're talking about drug overdose deaths going down. I could go on and on and on. But things are pretty strong right now. And make no doubt, Republicans will be measured 2 years from now and 4 years from now against where America is at this point. And these are facts.
Now, those are statements of facts. They're not debatable. The numbers are there for people to look up. I tell anybody who listens to my programs, whether here on air, on the radio, on internet, on my 3 o'clock show, do not take what I tell you at face value. Maybe eventually you'll develop enough trust that you do, but I don't need you to take what I say at face value. Everything I say is corroborated and fact-based, and you can look it up in all the different areas that you can get absolute numbers, not cooked numbers that you get from the Heritage Foundation or other places trying to lie to you. So again, Donald Trump is inheriting an economy on the ascent. Now, capitalism has destroyed the American worker. There's no doubt about that. And we have to recover that. We have to create policies that fight against what the capital structure. That's the only way to give those who actually innovate, those who actually create, those who actually work, to give them their fair share of the American economy. The billionaires today have not earned a damn thing. They have only been parasites onto your work, your labor. Every billionaire, and I discount none, nobody has earned $1 billion. You collectively have made the wealthy rich. But the psychology that we have been taught all of our lives have indoctrinated us, have brainwashed us into believing lesser of ourselves. You know, the person who creates and innovates, notice that they're not billionaires. The people who created the microwave, the people who created the every single creation that we have, every innovation, that person is not a billionaire. But the persons who are funded or capitalized by the parasites, somehow are the ones who get all the parasites are the ones who suck the money, suck the blood out of you. It's important for us to understand that. Now, I have another piece that I need to get into from Leopold Lespold, but I see that we have some calls on. So let's start with our calls, and let's go to Bard. Come on in, Bard. Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Thank you for taking my call. I knew Biden was bad, but you telling me how great Clinton was definitely confirms that he was the #1 ranked worst president in history. And whoever this guy was you just playing, that wasted 5 minutes of my life, telling me that illegal immigration's at the lowest point ever. This guy is an idiot. But I want to talk about Kamala Harris. She finally accomplished something. She certified the election, and in 2 weeks, we start the rebuilding process. Trump won in a landslide. It was 312 electoral college votes. And the only states that Kamala won were the ones that did not have any voter identification requirements.
Okay. Now that you've said what you had to say,
for the next election.
now that you've said what you had to say, you are, I've noticed I didn't interrupt you, and I wanted people to hear what somebody, how somebody who facts means nothing to.
Good.
Uh,
Good,
you know,
good. Finally,
I just,
finally,
uh,
somebody talking
okay,
sense in the
sir,
show.
be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. I just wanted America to listen to what a somebody that there are two groups of folks I talk to. There are those that I know I will reach with facts and say, hey, you can go back and corroborate the facts that I talk about. Then there are those who live in their own alternate state of reality, and they are fine with their willful ignorance. And my dear brother, you are in fact willfully ignorant. I went ahead and I gave you the statements that you can go ahead and corroborate. I gave you the employment figures for Clinton. I gave you the employment figures for Reagan. I gave you all of that. I've written a book that has all this information in it, right? And it's all corroborated. But with your desire to have your ideological feelings be satisfied with, to put it bluntly, crap, you are able to be satisfied with yourself to be, again, with all respect, willfully ignorant. Now, let me tell the audience, I will not, I don't, there are folks like Brother Bard here. There's no change in his belief, and there's no requirement that you need to, because most people in America are not like Brother Bard. But he is an example of some in this country that facts don't matter, but the danger that he represents is the apathy others would have listening to him. But thank you, my dear brother Bard.
That's
Stay
that's
in
that's
no wait, hold, oh, I'm not done. I am
your
not done. I
opinion.
made it, sir. No, this is not an
Your
opinion.
opinion.
Sir, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. And the reason it's a fact is that the
No,
statements that I made and the statements that you made are easily corroborated, as yours as false, mine is true.
no.
Thank you
CNN.
so
No,
kindly, Bart. No, no,
CNN is
no, no,
not a
sir, sir.
fact-based
No,
program.
sir.
Sorry.
Numbers are facts,
Your
okay?
information up
You
to
have a
CNN.
wonderful rest of your day, my dear brother Bard. Thank you. Again, no one should feel again, I want people like Bard to continue listening. Let them stew in their willful ignorance. It's okay. All right, let's go to brother Harry. Come on in, Harry.
Feliz Año Nuevo,
Feliz año nuevo, hermano.
Father.
Talk to me?
I'm doing good, and my brother's doing good. We're seem to be getting healthier. Because I haven't been going to church since I got sick back in September, but I keep in contact with my church contacts. So there's a guy who sends me Bible verses all the time to
That's
encourage
good.
me. The only thing I do is when I go down to the church, I still go to that food drive, but it's just I just haven't had the energy to be able to sit up in
Well,
Sabbath
my
for
brother, I want you to
hours.
get healthy, but I also need you to get to the point, because I care
Right, I'll
about
give you
you,
point.
but
Yeah, but we're getting
yeah,
better. Alan says hi, and he's going to talk to you about something having to do with Spanish speaking speakers, and he will talk to you about that. But anyway, let me get to the point. When you were talking about these numbers, I've looked up some of those numbers, and you're right. The Democrats, presidents, and what you just gave us is true. The economy does better under them, and you were right about Bill Clinton. I do remember one of the things he said after he left office, where he removed the regulations of Glass-Steagall. My late sister and my late father got caught with those subprime mortgage loans, those
yes,
mortgage-backed
yes.
securities. There was a book written, obviously you're aware of it, Too Big to Fail. I used to listen to it. This guy wrote this book with the banks and with the credit default swaps and the credit debt obligations. And you're right about all that with Reagan. They ran up debt. Donald Trump, I looked that up too. He ran up trillions of debt in his first time as president, more than Joe Biden did. And yes, with Joe Biden's economy, with the CHIP Act, Donald Trump's inheriting he's going to inherit an economy just like he did under Barack Obama, and he's going to run up a lot of debt, as we know. And then as I was talking to Michael yesterday on what he calls conversation, now Barry, I know that you who calls, I don't know if does he call your 3 o'clock show? because he doesn't call this show in the morning.
No, he doesn't. I mean, again, you have to bring it with the facts,
Right, right,
and I am sorry, there are a lot of folks who want to get on air just to promote their
exactly,
their willful
right.
ignorance, right? And I
There was
my air
something, yeah,
I'm not going to use your airtime, which this airtime belongs to all
right,
of you, to lie to you or
right.
allow others to lie to you. Go ahead,
No,
brother.
you don't. You tell the truth. You're honest, and you edify people. Yeah, because what the comment I wanted to make is when Barry called Michael's show Conversations, and you were talking about how Donald Trump created an insurrection. He was talking about the only terrorists we have are Al Qaeda, ISIS, and that really bugged me. That's why I called Michael and told him, look, there are domestic terrorists. You have these school shootings. That's domestic terrorism. Tim McVeigh, what he did with the Oklahoma bombings, and then you have Donald Trump, who incited these Boogaloo people and the Proud Boys. They are domestic terrorists, and he's up here
Exactly.
talking about the only domestic terrorists come from foreign shores. No, terrorism is terrorism.
And
What that kid did in Buffalo, killing those people at that store, and then Dylan Roof, what he did, that woman at that Christian, or that girl at that Christian school, shooting. That's all domestic terrorism. So I
let me
don't know
tell
what
you.
they're
Let me just say
talking
this,
about.
Harry. I need to go to Patrick, but let me just say this.
Right, right,
A lot of folks want to put they want to lie to themselves to feel good. There's a piece that I saw from a guy on reparations and all these other things. Joanne Reed has
right,
some pieces about our willful amnesia, our desire for amnesia. There are a lot of things that we do that sadly we like to hide behind ignorance, but we won't. That's not
right,
the purpose of this show. But I gotta let you go, Harry, because my phones are filling up.
right.
So
And
thank you
Bard
so
lives
kindly,
in his
brother.
own, like you said. Have a
No,
good day, and see you, Jack.
thank you, brother. Patrick, come on in.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Oh, I was going to say that I can't get Bart's 5 minutes back either. I, I was hoping he was going to call in and he was going to give another reason that he voted for Trump, because the only reason he gave earlier last year was eggs, and Trump has already admitted that was a grift. You're talking about Republican policies, or just policies in general.
hmm
Everybody likes to bring up Reagan's tax cuts, and he had tax cuts in 1981, but nobody talks about how he incrementally raised taxes on the middle class that pay for that. I
Exactly,
think it was,
including Social Security.
yes, sir, more than 10 times in 8 years. Now, I want to ask, do you think that Roosevelt was a popular president?
That's the one thing I never looked up, whether his popularity was high or not. But I thought it probably would be, but I don't know.
I consider him one of the most popular presidents. But
You
I mean,
meant
that is,
FDR, right? FDR, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
Um,
look. I never looked up his popularity numbers, but anybody who got reelected, what, 4 times, would be
yes,
like,
sir.
wow.
Yeah, I consider him one of the most popular presidents in our history. What he did was he raised the taxes on the rich, and that's what helped everybody out, and that is why he became popular. He started funding programs that people needed. Now, I consider him more to the left. That's debatable too. But if you contrast him and Reagan, Reagan did the exact opposite that he did, but he's the most popular amongst all the Republicans. And quality of life depreciated under Reagan, the exact opposite of Roosevelt. Reagan cut the taxes for the rich, and the way he paid for it was for the poor. You
Yeah.
might ask yourself, which model works better for society? And
Well,
it,
I agree with you. You ask which model works better for society, but it's not only which model works better for society, but it's also who actually works because like I said, the rich are rich because of a rigged system. We created an economic system driven by rich, the capital of the rich. We could create a different economic model that doesn't allow parasites, right? We could do that. There are various ways for us to create a model that diminishes the parasites in the model. We chose not to, so we get billionaires and all these guys that are nothing more than parasites. And you said something else too, as far as which model works better, Reagan is the most popular, etc. It is important for people to understand who pays. And I'm glad you brought that up. Reagan increased taxes in a way that was sort of dubious. Taxes on Social Security, taxes on a lot of things. But when it comes to taxes for corporations, etc., all went down. Go ahead,
Yes,
Patrick.
sir.
Anyway, I gotta jump to Augie. So anything else you want to add before I go?
No, that's it. Have a great day.
Thank you, Patrick. Let's go to Augie. Come on in, my brother Augie.
Good morning. As far as popular presidents, FDR, JFK, and Jimmy Carter were the popular presidents. When they died, people lined up along the roads for the funeral processions. Uh, and then also, Ronald Reagan, while he's the popular Republican president, is he knew how to give a speech. He had been a Hollywood actor, but besides that, he was also a Democrat and a union president when Republicans decided to buy him, and they bought him. He was not getting any jobs at that time when he made a speech for the Republican Party, and
On Medicare at that.
Yeah, but then when he became president, so he taxed Social Security, and I know a lot of older Republicans now complain about. They remember when Social Security wasn't taxed. That's right, it wasn't taxed until Ronald Reagan taxed it. Now they're complaining about it because they voted for him, sort of, but they don't say that. And George W. Bush got us into two wars. He almost got us into depression. It was Obama that got us out of the depression. And on day one, Moscow and Mitch McConnell got all the Republicans together and vote against everything Obama has asked for. And they did it for his whole 8 years. But he still got accomplishments made. When George W. was president, the auto industry started to go down. The financial sector started to go down. We had massive layoffs. I retired in 2002 from the company I worked for because I had a couple of job offers. I had offers from Continental Airlines. But that was a bad year when I retired because Continental Airlines had thousands of layoffs. Mm-hmm. And I got an offer from Northern Telecom, and Northern Telecom almost went under in 2002. And also George W. was a draft dodger, just like Trump was. George W. joined the National Guard, and that was a way to be a draft dodger. The letters for National Guard. I was active duty during Vietnam. In fact, George W. and I were about the same age when he entered National Guard about the same time he entered active duty. The NG for National Guard, active duty guys that I know of, we said NG stands for the no-go outfit. But then I talked to a guy who was in Southeast Asia later on, and he said the NG for National Guard over there, they said it was Nixon's girlies. And then George W., he didn't, when you entered the National Guard during Vietnam, you entered for 6 years. The National Guard knew they had you if you entered the National Guard. But George W. never spoke about when he got out. His unit was called the Champagne Squadron. That's because they're all the sons of prominent rich folks.
That didn't do a damn thing. Yeah, you're right. I gotta get to the other caller, my dear Augie. But let me tell you, you're so right about the enumeration of these presidents. There and I need to find a tactful way to point out why the Republican Party can have survived as it is today. But I haven't yet found a way to express it, eh, that won't get a whole lot of people. Whenever you're saying certain things, Augie, you have to, if you want people to listen to you, they have to first listen before you offend, right? And so I have to find a way to point out exactly why the Republican Party is still a thing. But we'll talk about that some other time. But thank you very much, Augie, for
Yeah.
um
Well,
for calling in, my brother. You take care. All
yeah,
right,
thanks
let's
for what
go.
you do. Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye
brother.
bye.
Peace. Let's go to brother Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, I want to talk about FDR since he's such a popular president. When he took office, his unemployment rate was 23% in 1932. Up in 1938, it was 19%. So that's not helping out the common man. He took the tax rate from, I believe it's 54% up to 90%. He prolonged the Great Depression himself. Jimmy Carter promoted taxation on Social Security. And Trump is not a draft dodger like Biden is. Biden is a draft dodger also. You realize this, right? He took a deferment because he had asthma, but yet he played on a football team, and he was a swing guard, right? So y'all need to get your facts straight. Bush had a less unemployment rate than Obama did. All right, get your facts straight. That's all.
Actually, you're simply wrong. I mean, it's not about facts straight or anything like that. Like I gave you the absolute numbers of employment and people that who receive jobs. That's not up for debate. All right, and Donald Trump is near the bottom, and all the Republican presidents are near the bottom. You can choose not to believe it, but those numbers are fact based. All right, so you're completely off base, brother. But thank you anyway for the call. You have a
Biden
wonderful
is.
rest.
Biden is.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, Brian. All right, you know that. Let me tell you. Uh, let let me let me point this out. We can only move forward as a society if we all play by the same rules, and if facts mean something. If folks want to live in la la land, if because of folks' ideology and folks' prejudices, they want to create an imaginary story to justify their false beliefs, you can do that. But you pay the price for it. You actually pay the price for your belief. One of the reasons I started the show today, and I said, I hope that folks get buyer's remorse. I hope that folks get because if they don't, the same thing to uh, that Bush did to the economy is what will happen again. Now let's get this straight. As I tell you, it turns out that people call here and they think by saying something on air, it makes it true. Here's the answer. The taxation of Social Security began in 1984, following passage of a set of amendments in 1983, which were signed into law by President Reagan in April of 1983. These amendments passed the Congress in 1983 on an overwhelmingly bipartisan vote, but it was signed into law by Ronald Reagan, effected because of all the cuts Ronald Reagan had in all for the wealthy. The only way you could get any kind of a budget done, and again, remember who was in office between 1981 and 1990, 1981 and 1989. That was Ronald Reagan. So, as usual, Brian is factually wrong. Just want to make sure and clear it up for all of our listeners. We don't lie on this program. If I make a mistake, I will immediately cop to the mistake, correct the mistake, and let everybody know that I made the mistake, because I have a lot of videos out there. And generally, what I also do, and it's painstaking, but there are times I will go to, if I make a mistake on a video and it goes on to YouTube, I will go hunt my YouTube video down, pull it down, do a correction on it, and put it up. That's how much I believe in telling the truth, being fact based, and making sure that I am not misleading any of the folks that I'm talking to, because I respect your airwaves. This isn't my airwaves. This isn't my time. These airwaves belong to all of us. And when we listen to Fox News and we allow Fox News to lie to us, we're allowing them to use our airwaves to lie. Come on in, Nancy. Nancy, you're on.
Am I
Sister
on?
Nancy,
Okay.
you're on.
Yes. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, real quick. We only have 30 seconds.
Okay. Yes. Tonight, KPFT Outreach and Development Committee are meeting. And if you want to meet by Zoom, you go to kpftx.org, and I'll give you all the links. Or you can go to kpft.org and scroll all the way to the bottom and you see the meetings, and you get the link. If you want to drop by, give your ideas. You don't have to. I mean, we don't fight in those committees. We don't fight. Okay, that's all.
Thank you very much, Nancy. You have a wonderful rest of your day, sister. All right, folks, we got to get out of here. But before we get out of here, I got to pass it on to Brother Jack.
And I'll give you all the links.
Hey, Egberto, announce your email.
All right, folks, you can reach me at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Una vez más, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Anything real quick, Jack?
No.
All right. Anyway, folks, thank you so kindly for listening. The rest of the show is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I want to thank all the callers, all the listeners. Love you all. Love you, Jack. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
You're listening to the American